What's up, everybody, and good morning. Yes, I have been exercising this morning, so I'm feeling very energetic, very alive, which is very good. So good morning and welcome back to my latest Facebook Live. And yes, good morning London with Jimmy Cheng. So my name is Jimmy Cheng, of course. If you don't know me, I am a professional photographer, filmmaker, and an Olympus ambassador. So yeah, I will be talking a lot about Olympus gear, of course. Well, but that aside, this stream is all about photography and filmmaking in general, and so it's not so much brand specific, but of course I will be using a lot of the Olympus gear, for instance, as a demo, because I use their gear exclusively to conduct my professional work. But today is not about Olympus. Well, maybe in some way. It's going to be fun. So hopefully we're going to have a good conversation today. So if you're new to my live stream, what this is it's just half an hour talk, and I'm going to discuss a point per day. Just have a conversation about anything to do with photography or filmmaking. So it should be fun. So we do have a kind of like a structure every morning, and like this is the usual setup that I have. Just to bring up the title, the topic. So normally I will have a general updates about myself and my family, and just to give a daily update, because this live stream can be viewed worldwide. Is set to public, and so everyone can see it. My family and friends all around the world can also check in later on to see that we are doing just fine. So this is more like for my friends and family, just to know that we are okay, especially in this lockdown period in London at the moment. I'm pretty sure that you guys are the same as well. So I'm just want to give a general update to everybody, and then after that we're going to have a title and topic to talk about today, and then finally a Q&A, question and answer if you have any. That is obviously optional, but if you do have anything you want to chat to me, bring up a point, you are very welcome to type in the comment section. I should see in the comment box about half a minute to a minute later, because this is a little bit of delay here when I'm using this streaming software, because I'm not actually looking at Facebook screen live at the moment. I'm purely just using the software to conduct this particular stream every day. But anyway, so let's get it started. Yes, shall we? So general update, yes, as you can see that I'm very, I'm very animated this morning. I'm just feeling good. Exercise helps, and also the sun is popping a little bit. It's not as sunny as before. Yesterday was horrible. Yesterday it rained the entire day. It just made me feel a little bit I don't know, bored in a way. I mean, it's already bored anyway, so it's extra bored. But okay, so but apart from that, we're okay, we're doing fine, and we order a lot of food deliveries. And so like since yesterday and today and tomorrow, we're gonna have like gradual delivery every single day. And this is something that is weird, isn't it? I'm not sure about you guys. We were going out to do shopping for the last month or so, but this week onward, we're trying to do online ordering for food. So we just try not to go as much now, and it just is something. I don't know how long this is going to last, but in the meantime and for the foreseeable future, we're gonna still going to order things online. We're still trying to work from home, and unless the government says otherwise. But if I do get jobs, if the lockdown has lifted, to ease the professional worker going out to work again, and I may have to go out and shoot again, because I do have a couple of inquiries, which is finally I got some potential jobs coming in. This is awesome news, of course, but it's still very, very limited, because I know a lot of people are still worried about, obviously, the whole pandemic issues there, trying to limit social contacts. And this is something that is not going to be nice, but at least I've got some people who are willing to give me a chance. And but these are like customers that I've been working with for the last few years now, so they trust me and they know me very well, and they love my work. This is the most important thing, right? Okay, anyway, so that's the general update, and so let's get back to the point of today: analog photography. What do you think? Good or bad in 2020? Well, I have to admit, I haven't really. Let me just get off this topic thing. So it's kind of stuck in my nose at the moment. And there you go. Right. So I'm not sure about you, but I have to admit that I haven't been shooting any film since, I would say, since last summer. Not because I don't want to, it's that I didn't have time to, and this is a true fact. I love film photography. In fact, I lied. I used my film camera once this year, just before the lockdown happened. I took my Leica M6 out. I was testing some films, and yeah, but I just didn't have time to process those photos, unfortunately. And because the lockdown started, and I couldn't do anything. And I know that a lot of the film processing labs are actually closed, so like I wouldn't be able to process any of my negatives. But anyway, this is about analog photography today. You know, I'm not sure about you guys, what you think about shooting films. Is it still a viable option? Is it still something that you would like to do? Is it something you would like to experience, for instance? Because film is different, you know. Like, let me just bring up one photo. You know, I love it. There is something is very different aesthetic wise. You know, this is something that you, no matter how you process your digital files, you just can't get that look. You know, I tried many times. I tried different presets. I bought film presets. I tried to manipulate colors myself. I can't get it to look like that, you know, and this is something very unique, and I have to say, and it's something I believe cannot be replaced. So if you're still really craving for the aesthetic, and that film photography is the only way to go. And I really do enjoy shooting films, and it's just all the overall process as well. Whether it's viable or not, it's really depending on your preferences, because I know a lot of people these days are, you know, especially those who are brought up with digital photography, they will be basically don't have that same patience that we had when we were film photographer. First of all, you really want to see your result instantly, you know, like just bam, you know, you shoot it, you know, and you just shoot it and you see it straight away from the back of the screen. And of course, in film photography, you can't do that at all. You have to basically finish the entire roll, then you send it off for a lab, process it, and then you can see it. You know, there are still labs around like Snappy Snap, you know, the consumer processing lab still dotted around London, and you can still get like half an hour processing if it's C41, which is color negative processing. Then you can still get them developed in half an hour to an hour. So yeah, it's relatively quick, so that's not too bad. But if you have, let's say, having black and white, you really can't do anything. Most high street labs these days won't process black and white film. They will have to send it off to a professional lab to do black and white, and that would take about 3 to 4 days, even though, you know, in theory, black and white photography is actually the easiest thing to do. But the problem is, you know, if you are processing in the high street lab, because the majority of the films are processed using C41 processing, you know, if they change to black and white just for your role, because not many people shooting black and white film, to be honest, and then they will have to wash the tanks, they have to clean up the chemicals and redo it, just for your roll of film. So that's not very commercially viable for the business. So that's why they have to send it off to a dedicated black and white people to process the black and white films. But other than that, you know, like you can pretty much do it, do everything in about an hour time. So I guess it's still not too bad, but definitely not as instant as digital photography. So for those who don't have the patience or just expect to see the results straight away, you may as well just forget about it, you know. But I that's why a lot of the time when I go out to shoot photography, even with digital, you know, that's what I do. I actually, I don't, as you can see it here, yeah, I close my LCD screen. I actually don't look at it, and I just shoot, you know, for the entire day, and I want to review it after, you know, I've been out. You know, when I go home or something, well, at the end of the photo shoot, I'll just slowly going back to the screen and check out all the photos. I still enjoy that kind of delayed process in a way, and I think it's fun. I think it's definitely fun, especially on the where's my pen F? Oh, my pen F's over there. I mean, like my Pen F, and I still treat it as a film camera, even though it's a digital camera. But I still like to set the black and white JPEG in the Pen F. So I shoot everything just as if I'm shooting black and white film, and then of course I shoot JPEG and RAW just in case I need to reprocess the photo later on if it's a processable or thing that I really like to bring up a level, because I still believe shooting raw is the way to go. Even though the black and white is really nice, and but if you want to print it and just bring out all those little details, raw is still the best option for me. So I would do that, but the black and white will give me a first glance of what I can achieve in that tone. So yeah, like I said, the Pen-F is my digital film camera, if that makes sense. Anyway, so let me just bring another photo. So these are all shot with my lomography Lubito 166, and is a fantastic little plastic medium format TLR cameras. Fantastic sharp lens, and I couldn't believe my eyes how sharp it was, and until I actually tried it. And the camera itself is actually quite cheap. You can pick up a second hand for like 50 quid, 60 quid now. Some of the older models, the original Lubito, you can pick up for like 10, 20 pounds on eBay sometimes. But they are a little bit iffy, you know, like because no one checks it, you know, whether it works or not is another thing. I actually bought mine brand new from lomography, so it cost me £250. It's quite dear for a plastic camera, but the thing about the modern, the kind of like, well, when I say modern, the latest version of the Lubito is that the camera, of course, got warranty, and also it has a lot of accessories that come with it as well, like the 35mm accessory, and all the flash sinks and everything. So it's actually quite nice to have, and it's lightweight. So like if I ever really want to crave, you know, using a TLR, so film camera, that thing is not too big. It's almost like a little box, and then you just shove it in your camera bag together with your digital if you want to have both in the same bag, and you can definitely do it with that camera because it's just tiny and lightweight. But you can see from here, there is a very nice colors tones to it. It's very sharp. Good afternoon, Barada. Very nice to see you. So you can see that it just nice rendering as well. Then you can see the color coming up from this is, I believe, is a Fuji Sensia. Could be a Sensia or actually 400H. I am not entirely sure. I can't remember what it is now. I have to go back to my film negative archive, because like all film photography, we have the negative archive, like basically folders of them, and then you put all the archive in there to flatten it so it's nice and straight, so you can always go back to it and reprocess them or reprint them if you want. AE1, whoa, AE1, that's a nice camera. I love the camera. That feels like a tank, that thing. And I never had the AE1. I had the A1, and it was really cool. It's a fantastic camera. You know, did you sell it at Burana? I hope you haven't sold it, and then you still got it somewhere, because it's a really nice camera. It's going back in fashion as well, and you still get a lot of these fantastic FD lenses. And I have to say, all the FD lenses gone up in price, and especially the L series, which is the professional level of FD lenses. They are all gone up in prices. The normal FD lenses, you can still pick them up in relatively cheap, not as cheap as 10 years ago, but they are definitely going up in prices. So I really enjoy shooting like film, and even like you can see the depth of field in here. This Lubito is not fast by any means. It's not even as fast as the slowest Hasselblad or a Rolly, in which is like 3.5. This, I think this lens is 4.5. But because it's the size of the negative, you can still see the shallow depth of field going on there. And this is something that you always want to understand about. You know, the different formats do give a different sort of effect there when it comes to depth of field. You know, same thing as the Micro Four Third, because it's smaller, and then the depth of field is, you know, deeper in a way. You got less depth of field there to play with, but you know, you can compensate it by moving in and out depending on your situation, or using different focal lengths to compensate. Never ever compare like for like, you know, because it is an unfair thing to do, because it's a different format altogether. So anyway, so and like I mentioned about the film aesthetic, you can see that they're very different in terms of the look of the film, and I just something about it, you know, there's something magical about it. Yeah. So like, what about you guys? You know, do you still own any film cameras? And if you do, like, what sort of thing you still shoot, or what sort of film stock you still shoot? And well, film stock is another thing I want to talk about. It's very sad, and I mean, like, very sad to see that all the old film stock that I used to love and shoot with are basically gone. And my favorite color negative was the Fuji Realer 100. It's not a professional negative, but I just love it. You know, it's almost like the high-end consumer level film stock, and the color is a typical Fuji color. You know, you got that very weird green tones in it, and green and magenta tones in it, but it's ultra sharp. You know, the grain is so small and so fine. So like when you shoot in a 35mm format, it's just amazingly punchy, just sharp. If you shoot in 120, oh my god, that is like almost like a ISO 50 positive films, and that's how good it is. But unfortunately, they have this Fuji has decided to kill it. So like they stopped selling it about 3-4 years ago now, and before they stopped making them, I have hauled a whole load of it. So like I still have a whole bunch of Realer 100 in my fridge, and I don't know. I mean, I will shoot with it someday, every now and then, and but I want to keep it as like a historic thing, you know, and because I know Fuji is not going to bring it back, but it's something I really enjoy seeing. Then also like another film stock that I really enjoy from Fuji was the 400H, which is the professional negative, ISO 400 of course. Is a fantastic film. It's got a muted tone, very much like this one here, and then it's not as, the color is not as vibrant, but it does give you that kind of edgy look to it, and which is something that I quite enjoy using, the 400H. And they still sell it. I can still use it, which is that's why I haven't got that many in my fridge, and I've got a few rolls there, but it's not something that I desperately need to buy because yeah, they're still widely available, so to speak. Then in terms of Kodak, you know, you might wonder, you know, I probably shoot a lot more Fuji than Kodak, and Kodak, I never really like their contrast, you know, and in the colors, because it's a little bit too contrasty for my taste. But it's a very like personal preference, you know, and there's something whether you like it or you hate it. It's unlike today's digital world, you know, you can process your photos in Photoshop or Lightroom and create different look that you want. But in the old days, it's all about what I would say. It's all about the film stock. I mean, the lens would play a part in terms of rendering, the sharpness, to some degree, a little bit the colors, but that is not at all. And it's all about the film itself. So the effect, everything is all down to the negative or the positive they use at the back of the lens. So this is why it's very different between the analog days and digital days. But I kind of enjoy that, because if you're used to a certain color tones or palettes from a specific film, you just stick with that. You just keep using it, and that also kind of defines you as a photographer in terms of style as well, because certain color palettes will suit a certain style, not so much of others. So like I can't really use what a lot of National Geographic people uses, like the Kodak Chrome. I still find it a little bit too rich for my taste, but you know, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic film, and I've seen so many stunning photos captured by Kodak Chrome, but it's not really something that I like to use. Then portrait is kind of like a de facto for modern day film photographers who shoot a lot of weddings with. The Kodak Portra 400 or even the 100 is fantastic film. It's got that muted tone that I like from Fuji. It's also slightly warmer compared to Fuji as well. So I kind of like that. So I do shoot with the Portra, and you can still buy them. So that's why I actually don't have any in my fridge. And yeah, I just shoot if I need to. I just go and buy it. And so it's not too bad in that sense. What about black and white films? Well, there are a lot more choices there, and it's all depending on the look. Once again, you know, I have a load of Alpha 400H, no, Alpha 100X, if I can remember correct, or 200H. I can't remember now, and I still have about 6 rolls in my fridge, and the Alpha PX, yes, 100PX is really nice, very gentle black and white. It's not too contrasty, so if you want something that is very even across the frame, or some sort of very soft portrait, you know, the Alpha is actually very good. One thing I will say about the Alpha is that the film itself is very thin, and then it's almost like a very cheap negative, and so I don't know the durability. So I always find it hard to believe. And so when I process them, after printing or digitize them, and I will carefully put it back to my sleeve and archive it properly, because you don't want it to break. It's almost like it's gonna break and brittle, just like kind of shatter everywhere as soon as I archive them. It's that fragile. Unlike the Kodaks and Fuji, the black and white film is very thick. So is the Ilford, and so yeah, these are the kind of my usual defecto for black and white XP2 from Ilford, 400 F, is something like that is I love. And also the Kodak will be obviously Tri-X. I like the contrasty stuff. Is depending on what sort of scene I'm getting. If I'm heading out in a very bright sunny day, I think the Tri-X will bring up that contrast even more to create a very stunning high contrast scenes I crave for, especially in black and white street photography. But yeah, I guess it's all really depending on your usage and ultimately and whether you want to shoot as a high contrast scene or not. But like I said, in terms of color, I prefer Fuji way more than Kodak. Just because the Kodak has always got a really saturated, very high contrasty look, which I personally, just personally don't like that much. And but I know they are great film, and I don't think there are any bad films out there, and they really all have their own characteristics. You just have to gauge it by yourself, try it, and if you like it, then that's if that's what you want, then of course you will just go for it. Let's see what Brian just said. My E1's gone. My son played with it and not function. Oh no, really? That's sad. But having said that, the AE1 is a I think it's semi-auto. It's still electronic based, but you can actually fix it. I don't think it's that difficult to fix. I'm pretty sure you can find a local camera store to fix your AE1, and for relatively cheap price. Most likely it will be one of the lever or one of the springs gone inside. It's just something about the older mechanical camera, kind of semi-mechanical or fully mechanical cameras. You can repair it and you can actually use it continuously. The only time that will fail if you've got a really bad circuit board, and there are some cameras that are known for it, like the circuit board, when it fails, it just fails completely. You can't really do anything because there are no spare parts these days, so you can't really repair them. So if you do intend to buy a film cameras, of course, go for the full mechanical versions, so that it will continue to function and very likely is repairable, and go for a more well-known model as well. Then that means that there are plenty of spare parts lying around, and that means you should be able to enjoy the camera for years and years to come. Okay, let me just bring another photo here. So yeah, I kind of like this Lubito thing. You can look at it again. This thing, it has absolutely no distortion whatsoever. It's a very beautiful 75mm lens, very slow at 4.5 aperture, like I mentioned, but there's plenty enough for bright daylight. Most likely you're going to stop down to f8 anyway, because the shutter speed, the maximum shutter speed on my Lubito was about, I think it was 500th as a second, so not even reaching 100th. So in a lot of cases, I have to stop down the lens to f8, f11 even in bright daylight. So it's okay, because it's a large format, like medium format. The diffraction doesn't come into play as bad as a 35mm, and just because it's not noticeable, it's just a lot smaller. So it's good morning, Mo. Yeah, we're talking about analog photography, which is a bit of fun. So if you do have any experience in analog photography or what sort of camera you're using, please let me know, and because it's fun to share some experience. I still love analog photography. I still shoot analog photography. It's something that I think I will continue to do given the time available. I still have a lot of spare films in my fridge. As long as there are labs available, I'll still process them. I have my own processing units, and I just haven't time again. It's difficult when you are especially now. Even though we're in lockdown at the moment, you might think that I have a lot of time to play with, but in fact, I actually don't have that much time, even worse than before, because during the day, I have broken hours to work. You can hear my kids screaming earlier, and it's difficult for me to work kind of continuously, so I have like 1 hour here, 2 hours there, and majority of my work is actually done after they've gone to bed on a daily basis. So it's really difficult. So like processing film is not easy. I've got a few rolls that are unprocessed. I mean, I guess in theory I could process them in the house, but of course there are chemicals and all the other stuff, so I don't want to do it. And you know, I'd rather just send it off, just let other people deal with it, and I come back and look at it myself. But anyway, I love it. I really truly enjoy analog photography. I don't know about your view, but I think that, you know, if you guys haven't tried film, if you are in love with photography, you know, really should try it at least. There are a few models that I would highly suggest you to check out. And if you are really into film photography, ooh, what's his name? Bo has a 135. Yeah, they're okay to be. I think the Panken scanner. They're okay. I think a lot of scanners are. Okay, let's talk a little bit about scanner. If you want to get a good film scanner, look for the lux value that they have, which means how bright the LED or the light bulb behind the negative when it's scanning. Because the brighter it is, the better to bring all the shadow details in from the negatives or the negative positive, depending on the film stock. So we just have to make sure that you have a very high lux value. But a lot of the consumer level scanner, they have usually between 3.5 to or 3 to 3.5 kind of lux values, which is relatively high, and which should be sufficient for most cases. But if you want to have ultra high quality scan, you know, you may want to have a look at 3.5 and above, you know, like 3.8 lux values. Drum scan, professional drum scan, you know, they have high values, they're like 4 and above, and which is really something. And but they also have ultra high definition scanning as well. You know, they can scan like almost like a 50 megapixel from a 35 mil negative, which is like like crazy. I have a Nikon Coolscan 5, which is one of the last semi-professional scanners at the time, and I know these guys nowadays, if you want to buy them, they are super expensive. I still have one in my office where I scan my 35 mil. For 120 and things like that. I mean, I think the latest one you can get is the Epson, I think the V760. I think that is a very cool but super expensive scanner. And jump scan is definitely too expensive. Yeah, they're big and huge. Yeah, I don't think anyone should get it at home if you don't know where to put it. You know, they are literally the size of the dining table, and then very tall and big. Is mainly for professional archiving, so they are not for consumers. But you know, I've seen them in and also seen them work, and also see how people scan this thing in drums, and they are crazy. Seriously, the amount of detail you can get from those is super crazy. But like I said, they are for professional archiving, so that means you got some really old negatives, you want to digitize it just to archive it, just in case something happens to the original. They use the drum scanner to get all the details out, making sure everything comes out from the negative, so they can reprint them. Of course, they can still reprint them using a traditional developing method, but because they're so delicate, some of these old negatives are very delicate, so they don't want to do that anymore, so they will use the drum scanner, digitize it, and reprint them. That's the way to go. And also, it's also good to have a digital copy instead of the analog, so we'll put that in a very nice and safety place, but using the digital file to circulate or to distribute for future users. So that's something that most of the commercial world will do that. But I personally still use my Coolscan 5 and the Epson scanner, like I mentioned, for 120 scanning. I love it, and but it just takes time. But like I mentioned, lux value is the one to go to look at if you want to get a dedicated negative scanner. But most of the ones that they are still on sale on the market, they are generally okay, you know. And also another thing is about the scanner software. There aren't many good ones out there anymore, and there are only two that I remember. There is one called Silverfast. Silverfast is the professional film scan software. They are very good, and I mean very, very good. So if you are scanners only tells half the story. The software behind it to process the data that is extracted from the film negative is also very important. They're almost as important as the image processor in the digital camera. So that's how important it is. So there are many really good ones out there, and Silverfast is definitely one of the best software out there. But they're expensive. They're about 250 quid a copy. There are some cheaper one, and they're as effective, but they lack of a lot of the professional options there. So you just have to make sure you know what you want is what you get. You know, I don't know if I'm saying correctly. So I mean, you can buy the cheaper version if you don't use it often. For instance, okay, that's what I mean. So if you are a dedicated film guy, you know, you really want to digitize all your negative and making sure you get everything out from it, from whatever scanner you're using, Silverfast is definitely one of the best options to get. So let's see what Mo just said, and yeah, and that, you know, that is very true, you know, and I still think there is something about the film M cameras. Man, my M6 and all my lenses there, if I shoot with the correct film, the quality comes out from it is stunning. Is amazing. I love it. Given that if you scan or process the film properly, then scan the film properly using the correct software, yeah, you can extract so much more. And then the output and the outcome of the photo would definitely look a lot better than digital. It's just something more organic, something special about it. And let's see what you most say. Yep, it is true. That's another thing I want to bring up. And of course, yes, one of the downside of shooting negatives or shooting analog these days, it would be costs. The price of negatives and positives had jumped doubles for the last 2 years, and now you can. A consumer level negative would cost about £8 to £9 a roll of 36 exposures, compared to £1.50 to £2 like 5-6 years ago. Is dumb. Actually, no, not even 10 years ago. Sorry, 10 years ago. But 5 years ago, they've gone up to about £4 a roll already. But now you can't get them unless you pay for like £8-9. Occasionally, you will get some bargains because films do expire, so you have to look out for the expiry date. Not that you can't use it, but in terms of negative, and when it expires, you start losing the contrast, you start losing a little bit of colors, so you get a little bit faded colors. But if that's what you want, then yeah, there's no problem using it. And so in terms of negative, so you can get bargains when it's approaching the expiry date. You can get them like in relatively cheap prices, but yeah, if you are into the colors and stuff, you really want to get the negatives within the expiry date. So that's why a lot of the cases, if I want to go out and shoot, I would just order or buy it like a week before my shoot. Then I'll make sure that all the negatives are within the expiry date, so they get the maximum outcome from it. But I love it. It's really cool. It's really fun to do analog photography. If you haven't tried, like I mentioned, yeah, you should try it. So go back to my last point about a recommendation of some film cameras you may want to get, depending on budget. So if you want something cheap and something that just get you started, you can look for some Russian cameras. They are dirt cheap. You know, you can get Zenit E, one of the most simple mechanical cameras. They cannot, well, they will die, but they're so cheap. You know, even if they die, don't bother repairing it and just buy another one on eBay. They cost about £5 to £10 for the body. Get some Russian lenses. They are £10-15, so you can get the whole functional camera for about £30, and they are still really good. They are. I mean, I have some Russian lenses as well. They're really, some of them are actually not bad. You know, the Helios 44mm f2. It's actually, yeah, quite a nice lens. Got some very unique old vintage look to it as well. So that will get you started. But if you want to step up a little bit, get a little bit more performance out of the film cameras, like faster shutter speed and slightly more rugged body, you can look for either Canon or Nikon's film cameras. So from Canon, like Burana, you know, AE1 is very good, semi-auto electronic cameras. Then also have the AV1 as well. The A1 is cool. You know, all these are very good models there, but depending on the price you want to pay for them, they range between 80 to about £200 each, just the body. Sometimes they might get a kit lens as well, which is usually a 51.8 or 50 f2. Then you can go for the Nikon equivalent of like FE, FM1. They are really cheap, relatively cheap again. Once again, about 100 to £200. All the AIS lenses, they're not too bad as well. Then of course you can bring up a level. You can start looking at maybe even medium format cameras. You can get like Bronicas. They're really cheap. You know, they can get the body and the kit lens for about 350, 300, 400 quid. They are super rugged, fully metal, medium format, 120, so 6x6 square format cameras. It's really cool as well. Relatively cheap for medium format. And also maybe like I mentioned about Lubito, you know, I had my Lubito. I'm not entirely sure whether you can still get them new in low lomography. I know they had restocked them last year, but they got sold out very quickly. And because it's a popular camera, you can buy them secondhand on, of course, eBay and stuff like that. They're relatively cheap, like 50 quid or something like that. And it's worthwhile getting one. Hopefully you can get one from lomography, which is the later version, not the older version, because most of the older versions, they will work in some way, but because no one actually have ever looked after them or serviced them, so unlikely you're going to get a good one. And but occasion you may find something nice, but you just depending on your luck. Getting a later lomography version is a lot better bet if you want to go for a Lubito. Then of course, if you really do have the budget, I think you cannot go wrong with some of the higher end film cameras like the Nikon F3, F3H, or the F6 if you want fully automated. Similarly on the Canon, which is the F1, A1, and also the EOS 3 or the EOS 1V, which is the same camera that I have. They are fantastic, super rugged film cameras, which work with some of the later lenses as well. If you go for the EOS 1V, so is the Nikon F6. They work with all the latest digital lenses as well, so which is actually fantastic. Then, of course, if you still have money, you think that you can go beyond that. Leica. Yes, you can go for Leica film cameras, like the M cameras, they're rangefinder cameras. They are absolutely built to last. I have my M6, which is is still there after 30 years, and it's fantastic. You know, you can't destroy that thing. And then and because Leica M camera hasn't really changed that much, and they still have lots of new parts from Leica themselves. So if you ever something goes wrong with the M camera, you can send it back to Germany, have had repair and fix, and it come back like new. And it's as good, you know. And if you really want to go to that level, you can definitely go for the Leica M film cameras. But then, of course, you have to invest in M lenses as well, which will cost you an arm and a leg to buy them. If you so that's only for the kind of like the ultimate dedicated film cameras enthusiast or photographer, if you really want to go to that level. But you know, for most people, I guess some of the early options that I mentioned would be more than sufficient. It's something for you to get into it, trying to learn a little bit about film photography, and also, you know, just to satisfy your curiosity and that film look that you want to see from negative and positive from the older era. You know, it really is something you should try. If you are really into photography, I think you should not miss this opportunity while you still can. I cannot say the same thing in 20 years time, whether we still have film photography or analog photography. I'm not entirely sure. They may completely move over to digital. I hope not, but then if that's the case, you know, that means now is the time to preserve this and try yourself and make sure that you have at least tried it in analog. You know, it's really something that I trained up with, and that's how I trained as a photographer before I moved into digital. In many ways, I still think like a film photographer, even though I'm operating a digital camera these days. But it's a good way to learn, and also a good way to think. And what did Mo say at the end? And the disposable camera quite good. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it's quite. Lomography makes some really fun disposable camera these days. They just released one yesterday. It's with a waterproof housing, so you can actually go to dive as well. yeah, Lomography, I think you have to give them credit for keeping the analog communities going, and it's a hard work, you know, especially everyone's talking about digital these days. Oh, something that I haven't mentioned. Yes, of course, I am an Olympus guy, so how can I miss some of the Olympus camera? Right, the OM1 and the OM3, definitely, you know, like this would be in the camera catalogs that I would recommend. They are absolutely stunning camera. The OM1 especially, if you can't, it's the classic OM series, and it looks gorgeous, just like the like, you know, the modern OMD cameras, and it's very good. But if you want the ultimate mechanical film cameras from Olympus, try to find the OM3. It's difficult to find, and the OM3 is very rare because by the time OM3 came out, the world has moved on to semi-automatic, so they wanted aperture priority, shutter speed priority, that kind of thing. So at the time when the OM3 came out, the Olympus also launched another version, which is the semi-auto versions, which is the OM4, which is as good as the EM3, so the OM3, but the difference is the OM4 is half mechanical, so it still works if the battery runs out, and you can still use one dedicated speed from the actual shutter, but you know, you basically lose control of the rest of the camera apart from just one speed. So that's not so good, but that usually apply across the board. Most of the camera from that era will be more semi-auto than fully mechanical, but Olympus did release a full mechanical camera to complement the OM4, and also for those people who are still relying on the full mechanical action from the camera, because a lot of journalists would prefer a full mechanical cameras in the field in that time, because they want reliability. Also, like the chance of losing or losing power from the camera can be catastrophic, especially when they're on the job. So a mechanical camera is almost ensuring that they can continue to shoot regardless of the situations, because you may lose the metering, but if you're experienced enough, you're more likely to guess using Sunny 16 rules should be able to get away with it, because the latitude, the dynamic range from the negatives are usually quite wide. So this means you should be able to rescue the shot, even though you may under or overexpose the shot by a 1 or 1.5 stop. So that you should be okay. So that's cool. OM3 if you want to get an Olympus film camera, or OM1. OM1 is fully mechanical as well, but the mechanics is not as reliable as the OM3, and OM3 also is benefit from a light meter as well, so they got the best of both, almost like my M6 basically. My M6 is fully mechanical together with a meter. So there you go. That's my 2 cents, and also talk about film photography. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's talk about analog stuff, and tomorrow I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, so you have to wait and see. But today, this afternoon, I'm going to have another live stream on my YouTube, Photography 101 Live. I'm going to talk about photo experience and the most horrendous, horrific photo experience you ever experience in your life. You know, like we're gonna have a fun talk about it. It's nothing more specific, it's more like a fun chat, and it should be fun. Okay, so if you guys want to join me, it's today's at 3 p.m. London time, GMT. It will be on my YouTube channel, so I'm going to put the link in my description after I finish this live here, so you can check that out. And also, don't forget, I have my Buy Me a Coffee link there. If you want to support my work and support me, you can buy me coffee, and that will be very good. And so I also would like to use the opportunity to thank all those who already bought me coffee, so thank you very much. So once again, thank you, and so happy to see you guys again. I will speak to you tomorrow again. Excellent. So I shall see you guys all later. Bye for now.